Hey, we have a 2022 Ram 2500 with a 6.7 Cummins. We are doing the Banks Monster Ram intake to get rid of the potential, I guess we call it failure point, with the factory grid heater. On these trucks, down on the side of the intake down in here, there is a power wire run to the factory grid heater. The failure point on those is the nut on the bottom of the grid heater. Heats to the point that the stud, either the nut or the stud or both fail. The nut drops off, rolls back into the back end of the intake, and tends to destroy the rear cylinder. So one of the options to be able to stop this from happening is Banks does this monster ram intake. As you can see, it has a very large air passage hole through the new cover plate, much larger intake tube, and it replaces the grid heater with a coil style heater. On these intakes, you can actually run up to 3 of them depending on the area where you live and how much temperature, ambient cold temperature you see. So we will install all the parts of this kit onto this truck, and we will hopefully make it so this customer gets a long, healthy life out of this engine. All right, so we're partway into this job. Steve's in the process of pulling the fuel rail and the intake lid off. You have what, most of the fuel lines out of the way now?
Yeah, I got 2 left, 3 left, and a couple bolts on the fuel rail will be out.
Then once the fuel rail is out, this whole intake lid can come out, and you can see the size difference and how much, how choked off that is compared to the new intake hole. All right, so a little catch up on the job. As you can see, the all the injector lines are back in place. The new bigger opening intake plate is installed, or the intake plate with the bigger opening is installed. You can see by compared to the last video just how much bigger the hole in the plate is. There's a rerouting harness for a couple of the different sensors to get them up out of the way, and we're well on our way to having this truck back together. All right, so this being the factory intake horn, you can see that the gasket is out this full outer dimensions, but this inner piece here is closed up. It's not actually fully open. It's only open the size of the factory heater grid, whereas the Banks one is absolutely massive. They open it all the way out to the full size of the opening, and well, it's a massive difference in the inside volume of it as well. And then the two side by side, you can see the same thing. This is a very tight necked turn. This is a much more open rolling turn with a whole much more interior volume available. So in theory, it should move an enormous amount more air. Okay, so this being the factory intake cover, you can see the grid heater. You can see on them where the stud comes up for the power to go into the grid heater, and from underneath, this is where the stud comes through to power the grid heater on below. You can see this nut right here is the offending nut that tends to melt and fall down into the intake and takes out the rear cylinders. It's a you can also see how much the comb style design of the intake grid heater actually packs full of soot thanks to the EGR system in these trucks. The EGR system is responsible for basically packing a whole bunch of soot and extra exhaust fumes into the motor as it's running. All right, the installation is all finished up. You can see some pretty serious differences in some of the relocation that has to happen. Moves the EGR valve up quite a bit higher. There's now quite a downward angle on the EGR tube. The heater now has a battery connection that comes up here to the new intake air heater. All in all, pretty great looking job. Personally, I'd like it better if the EGR wasn't there, but you know, it is what it is.